Okay, welcome everybody. So I'll just let a few seconds go past so people can connect and stuff. But welcome to the introduction to the memory techniques and memory training. So hopefully you can grab as much as you can from this session. The whole idea behind doing this is just to introduce memory techniques in general. So it is an introduction. So if you know memory techniques, it doesn't really, it's not going to help you that much. But, I'll try and go through as much as I can with the techniques and how to train and also how to apply. Because if you know how to apply the techniques, that's where the power is. Obviously, they say knowledge is power, but it's not much power if you don't know how to use it, right? So we'll give you the knowledge as best as we can and show you how to train and practice the skill as well. So I guess a little bit about me. If you don't know, I'm a four-time Australian memory champion, and I've written books on memory and learning as well. So The Yellow Elephant, and also How to Learn Anything in 48 Hours as well. And essentially, my backstory is that I didn't always have the greatest memory. In fact, I was always complaining about my memory as well. And what would happen was that, I'd have conversations, I'd forget conversations, speeches. I wouldn't even dare touch speeches because I've had bad experiences. Just reading, I would barely ever read because I just forget straight away. So that was the issues that I was having. And then one day a friend of mine said, Tansel, I can remember random objects back to front, any order. And I thought, what's going on there? How do you do it? So I had to test him out. And surely enough, he memorized everything. And I thought, wow, this is an unbelievable skill. How did you do it? And I thought he was cheating. I mean, I didn't see him write down anything or pre-plan anything because I gave him random words that I knew. So he just said, look, it's just memory techniques. And I said, well, what's that? I didn't learn that at school. So he told me to, do some research. I read some books on memory techniques and I got, good at it. And I just learned. So I thought this is amazing to learn these skills. So what I did was I did a bit of research on the internet and came across all these, memory learnings on how to remember names and how to memorize numbers. And I thought, wow, this is awesome stuff. So I entered an Australian memory championship, thinking I'd be coming last. And this is along with my friend. And what happened was that we essentially, did this program together with the memory championships. And I came second in Australia. He came third, and we broke all these memory records. And we thought, wow, this is unbelievable for someone that didn't really believe he had a good memory to now, breaking memory records in competitions. So I just thought that was really interesting. And since then I thought, well, anyone can use this skill and everyone can learn it. So I might as well show people. So that's what I've been doing for the past 22 years, is showing people how to use these techniques, showing them not just the knowledge, but how to train as well. And that's what we'll be looking at today is how can you train your memory? What are the techniques? And then how can you sort of implement that into your daily life as well? So they're the sort of things we're going to look at. I'll be sharing my screen and stuff like that, which will be good. And towards the end, we'll sort of take some questions and, people have burning questions. So, as I'm going through the class, feel free to, jot down some questions, for yourself. And then, when we do open up for questions, you can sort of fire away from there as well. So that's it there for me. What I want to do now is a little memory test with everyone, right? So I'm going to do a little memory test. Didn't think this was happening, did you? So I'll go through a little memory test. And this test, I'm just going to give out some random words, right? And you have to try and remember these random words to the best of your ability, okay? So here we go. And I'll say them out a bit slower because internet connections can be a little bit delayed. So I'll delay it out so you probably get all of them right. But we'll see how things go. So here we go. So the first word, is gun. Next one is shoe. Then we have tree, door, beehive, sticks, heaven, gate, wine, and pen. Now, before I go ahead and give the answers, because in your head you could be going cat, dog, tree, car, computer, whatever, right? I really don't want to confuse you because you're really trying your hardest to remember, aren't you? So I'll go through a bit of the theory on how the memory works, so you can get a good understanding of it. So what essentially happens is whenever we try and remember something, it gets stored, right? It gets stored in our brain. And what we need to be able to do is we need to be able to find that information. So if I'm out there reading something, or if I'm trying to remember a name, right, and I say it to myself, it goes up into our brain. But there is no storage space, right? When I'm saying storage space, there is no where it's located. So what we do is we go back and repeat over and over again so we can solidify that connection. And even then, it's not solidified and we have to, go back or just forget, which is what happens. So what we can do with memory techniques is we can create little holding spots in the brain. And then what we do is we'll put the information into those holding spots, just like folders on a computer, right? You don't just put all your files on your desktop, right? You've got folders for your photos and for, your tax stuff. You're not going to put your photos in your tax folder, right? So that's how you plan out and memorize stuff. So how awesome would it be to create that, right? So that's what we're going to do, hopefully in this session, show you some techniques on how to create those folders in your brain and how to activate that so that you can always remember stuff. How cool, in a free session too. So usually used to charge for these sort of things, but in the age of information now, it's not so much about information, it's about practical use. So what I want you to do, and then for everyone watching, use these skills, because it's not about the knowledge, it's about the practical application. That's where you will get the benefit of it. So here we go. Let's go back to those words, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to test you randomly, right? So I'm going to give a random number, right? And you have to give me the word that was corresponding to the order of that number, right? So if you're unsure, just follow along with me. Okay, so this is testing yourself. So if you've written them down or whatever, don't look away and see where you're at mentally in terms of this test. Okay, ready? Here we go. I want you to write down the seventh word that I said. So the seventh word in your mind, you're thinking, okay, what was number 7? Go to number 7, write it down. Okay, got that? Next one, the fourth word. And I'll give you a bit of time as well to write these down because you're obviously not going to recall it straight away. So fourth word. Second word. So the second word that I mentioned from that list earlier. The sixth word. So this is where it starts to get tricky a bit. So word number 6. And then we have the 10th word. So at this stage, people are going, how many words were there? That's what usually happens. But just follow along. So 10th word. Then we're going to the first word. Now, most people get the first word. And there is an effect called the primacy and recency. So that's one of the reasons why they generally get the first word. Okay, then we have the 9th word. So try and remember the 9th word. Then we have the 8th word. So word number 8. Word number 5. So 5th word. And the final one is the third word. Write that down. Word number 3. All righty. So let's see how everyone's gone. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through those answers, right? And see how that goes. Okay. So I'll start from 1, go all the way down. So number 1 was gun. So if you got gun in first place, right, give yourself a good tick. In fact, if you got the word right in the correct spot, give yourself 2 ticks, right? So we're going to make a total score out of 20. If you get the word right in the correct order, 2 ticks. If you get the word in any other order that's not in the correct order, give yourself 1 score. So, we'll give you some points anyway. So, all right. So 2 ticks for gun. Number 2 was shoe, right? Number 3 is tree. Number 4 is door. Number 5 is beehive. Number 6 is sticks. Number 7 is heaven. Number 8 is gate. Number 9 is wine. And number 10 is pen. Now, if you're going through all of those, all right, give yourself a score out of 20, by the way. So if you got, a few right, but in the wrong order, give yourself, the 1 ticks or 1 score. If you've got the correct orders, give yourself 2, and then grade yourself out of 20. So I'll give you a few seconds to do that. Okay, so hopefully everyone's graded themselves. Obviously, I'm not going to go through people's answers, but you would have noticed some sort of a pattern going on, right? Some people do, some people don't. And it's understandable because of the way that I actually did the exercise. And lo and behold, all the words that I've given rhyme with the numbers. So 1 is gun, 4 is door, 7, heaven, 10, pen. So do you see what I've done here? So this is not just a memory test that I've given you. It's actually a memory technique creatively named the number rhyme technique. Right? I didn't name this, so blame whoever's named it. Now, what can you do with this technique aside from testing yourself, right? You can memorize something on it. So let's say we want to memorize something. Let's say it's a shopping list, right? We're going shopping and we want to memorize, say, 10 things, right? And the first item we want to memorize, it's say milk. Now, instead of going milk, 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 milk inside my head, what I'm going to do is make a story, right? Connect a story with milk and gun, right? So imagine shooting a gun and milk coming out of it, right? Or someone shoots you with a gun and it's full of milk, or you're shooting milk and milk goes everywhere, right? Now, the sillier you make the story, the more visual it is, the easier it is to remember. So picture the gun shooting a milk, milk going everywhere, all right? Let's do number 2. So number 2 was shoe, and let's say cereal, like breakfast cereal. So we could say, oh yeah, I kicked the cereal box with my shoe, but that's kind of, you might remember kick instead of shoe. So we need to use the actual shoe. So imagine maybe eating cereal out of your shoe, right? Can you taste what's in there? Can you get the sensation of eating from your shoe? Can you get the feeling, right? Feeling adds another layer of memory. So do that out of your shoe. Next one is tree. So tree and let's say onions. Right now, a lot of people at this stage going, well, onions don't grow on trees, so I'll just plant them on the base or something. Well, guess what? In your mind, anything can happen. So you can create an onion tree, a beautiful onion tree growing, and people are crying just to get to these onions, and they're trying to eat them, and Have you ever, taken a chunk out of an onion before, right? For me, it's not that pleasant. Maybe for you, I don't know, it might be a pleasurable thing, and, all power to you. So next one, number 4 is door. So let's say door and butter. Right now, the story we can create there is you can put butter all over the door and a door handle, doorknob. And then when you go to turn the door, your hand's all sticky and, yucky. And I don't know, maybe you like that feeling. I don't. So that's how you can do it. And feeling, again, it's a really strong trigger for remembering, right? Next one after door is beehive, right? So beehive, we want to connect cucumber. Now, let's say cucumber and beehive, I stick the cucumber in the beehive, right? Or you can treat it like a piñata and you're hitting the beehive with the cucumber. So now it becomes a little bit more memorable, and then, bees come out of it and start chasing you. So the more of a story you make, the better you can remember. Next one, number 7, no, 6. 6 is sticks. So sticks and let's say tomatoes. Now, you can have tomatoes growing on sticks, and that's fine, but you want to make something memorable, right? So maybe you're poking the tomatoes with the sticks and tomato going everywhere, right? Or you're having a tomato kebab, on a stick. So make it memorable. Or maybe you're playing cricket or hitting the ball with it, or baseball, or whatever sport you want to do with a stick and a tomato. You're doing that. Next one is 7, which is heaven. So let's say heaven and lettuce, right? So lettuce and heaven, story we can make is maybe you can say the clouds were made of lettuce in heaven, or maybe you're greeted with complimentary lettuce in heaven, right? Or maybe people are saying lettuce into heaven. So play around with words as well, because wordplay is obviously a bit of fun. So treat this like a game, right? The more you can gamify memory, the more fun it'll be, and it'll be easier to learn as well. So heaven and lettuce. Next one, 8 is gate. So gate and let's say cheese, right? So you could say, oh yeah, I left, cheese by the gate. Again, that's kind of boring and it's static, right? Movement is, really cool when it comes to memorization. So maybe the gate was made out of cheese and you ate the gate to get to the other side. But lo and behold, maybe you're lactose intolerant and you need to run back to the other side, right? Because there's all toilets down there. Next one, number 9 is wine. So wine and let's say chicken, right? And, usually people say, oh yeah, wine goes nice with chicken. Yeah, that's good, but it's not a strong enough association for me anyway. So what you can do is maybe there's drunk chickens drinking from the wine bottle, right? In your head going, how's that even possible? Well, it is. It's imagination, right? Yeah, so you can play around. Again, you got drunk chickens. Yeah, how cool is that? Next one. Final one is 10, which is pen, right? So pen and let's say apple, right? So you can do Apple Pen. Well, that's easy. Years ago, there used to be a YouTube video with the Apple Pen guy, pineapple pen. You picture that if you can remember that. You can also use the pen to write, right? So you can go write on an apple with the pen. You can draw pictures and then stick the pen into the apple. So there you go. So there's all our stories for our 10 items. We didn't really repeat any of them. We just went through the stories, right? So let's see if you can now remember those words. Again, I'm going to do it all randomly as well. And just see how many you can remember. Again, same scoring system. If you get the word right, 2 points as opposed to 1 if you get it anywhere else. But let's go through the random numbers and see how many you can recall. When you're doing a recall, just think of, okay, what was the number rhyming with? Get that in your head and then remember the story and then write down, or you don't have to write down, but just recall as you're watching, or people have phones. Sometimes you can put on your phone. Whichever way you want to do it, go for it. So here we go. The 7th word, write that down. So you're going 7, 7, 7. What was that rhyming with? I don't have to say. Look, I can say the rhyming word. That's not that important. It's more what's inside that's important. But I want to test you, see how you are. This is also going out to the whole world via the internet as well. So I want to make sure that they have the opportunity to be tested as well. So seventh word, write that down. I've given you some extra time because of my talking. Next one, the fourth word. Write down what the fourth word is. So 4 was rhyming with such and such, and then think of the story that was happening and then write it down. Cool. Next one. Number 2. Right? The second word. I'll go a bit faster. I think that's going to be better. All right. Number 6. So the sixth word. The 10th word. I think people by now know how many words there are. If you're the ones questioning how many words there are, you know how many there are now. So 6, 10. And after the 10th word, we have the first word. So write down the first word. Then we've got the 9th word. And after the 9th, we've got the 8th. Everyone's so concentrated. I can tell. Then after the 8th, we've got the 5th word. And then from the 5th word, we go to the final one, which is the 3rd word. Okay, so let's go through the answers and you can score yourself out of 20. Here we go. Right. So I'll go from 1 to 10. All right. So the first one, that was rhyming with gun, and we had the word milk. Right. So if you've got the milk there, 2 points. But I won't explain the scoring system. You know how it works by now. Number 2 was shoe. So cereal. Number 3 was tree. So onions. I'll accept onion as well. So you can have onions or onion, doesn't matter. Number 4 is door, which is butter. Number 5, beehive, cucumber. Number 6, the sticks, which is tomatoes. Number 7, heaven, which is lettuce. Number 8, gate, which is cheese. Number 9, wine, which is chicken. And number 10, hen, which is apple. All right. So those were the 10. Give yourself a score out of 20 and see how you go. Now, when you're going through that, you obviously probably remember a bit more, right? Now, why is that? The reason is that you're using storytelling to remember instead of just repetition and rote learning. You're using visual imagery. You're using sensations, feelings, emotions, all of that stuff. There's also movement in there, color, right? There's a full-on acronym called SMASH and SCOPE that I go through with people. And I've got the whole explanation on my YouTube channel as well. So, feel free to watch that video. And the more you apply your senses, movement, color, all of that stuff, then the more memorable the story becomes. Hence, you can remember and recall what you've memorized. So where can you take this, right? There's a really cool technique called the memory palace I want to go through. And the memory palace is like an extension of this number rhyme technique. And you can use it for a lot of practical applications. And I want to go through that with you now as well, because this is probably one of the most powerful techniques you can use. Number rhyme, you can use that a lot, right? For little things. But what if you have more than 10 things to remember? What if you've got complex talks, right? You can get, a lot. So what I want to do is I want to show you this memory palace so you can understand how things, work together. And how you can remember a lot more than just 10 items. So Here's how it works. And it was developed by the ancient Greeks called the memory palace, right? This thing was called the memory palace. And what the ancient Greeks would do is they'd go along a familiar journey, right? And for every little stop along the way, they would make a connection, like a story, right? And then when they'll want to remember, they'd go back onto those locations and recall the stories that they made along the stops. So I'll give you an example of a my location, I guess my memory palace, method of loci, journey technique. There's many names for it, right? I'll give you an example of mine, and then I'll get you to do your version of it, and we'll play around and get you to memorize some stuff there as well. And then after that, we'll look at more practical applications, which will be cool. So, my memory palace example. What I do is I usually start from my house, and my house is the most familiar to me, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the start and work my way in. And the reason why I do that is the memory palace is useful for remembering things in sequential order. So if you've got, for example, a speech, if you've got task lists that you want to remember in order, all that sort of stuff, this is helpful for that. So let's do it anyway. So my first location that I have in my house is the first thing that I see is my front fence. So I'll put, location 1, front fence. And as I move inside, I've got a car parked in the driveway. So I'll put number 2, I'll just put car, right? Then my third location is my front door. So I'll put location 3, front door. I move inside the house now, I've got a whole bunch of things I could choose from, right? I've got a living room and so on. But instead of saying living room, right, I have to pick a specific thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn left. I'm going to go into my bedroom. Now, I'm not going to say bedroom because I want to pick specific things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say location 4 is my window. And I'm going to go from left to right in a circle, clockwise, essentially, because that's how my mind works with sequential. Some people could work the other way. Some people just sort of sideways. But for me, it's sort of going around in sequential clockwise. It's probably this way on the internet, right? So the location 4 is my window. Location 5 is my bed. Location 6, I might say shower is 6, sink is 7, toilet is 8, and so on, right? So what I want you to do, and I'll give you a bit of time to do this, is to create 10 locations in your home, right? So, I mean, you could start from the outside of your home, but create 10 locations. So start from wherever your house starts. It could be a front fence or it could be a front door, whatever it is, start from there and just write, location 1, location 2, 3, 4, up to 10. So I'll give you a few minutes to do this as well, and off you go. I'll just wait around here while you do that. Actually, while you're doing that, I am just going to put my website in the chat, because my website actually has a whole bunch of downloads you can use to train your memory. So we're going to look at that as well, which is really cool. And yeah, I've developed them through ChatGPT, which is pretty cool. You can do that as well yourself. And also ones that I've stolen off other memory competitors years ago that they don't use. So, free to use stuff for everyone. There we go. So I'll give you, just a bit of time, relax, write down your locations, but make sure you don't write down like kitchen or, bathroom or things like that, because you can have about 20 things in the kitchen, like a fridge, an oven, a stove, you know what I mean? So yeah, just write down the things along the way. Okay, so by now you should have close to 10 locations, right? And in the chat box, I've written my website. So you can go to that a bit later on. And I'll also send through yeah, something else after this as well, which is, special just for you guys online. So, all right. So you've got your first location. What we're going to do is I'm going to give you some random words, right? And I'm going to go to my website just to show you how to access these things. So I'll share my screen. Okay. So something should pop up soon, but that's my website. And there's a download section. So if you go to tanselali.com or www.tanselali.com downloads, there's a download section. We're also going to look at Memory League as well, which is pretty cool. And you can train your memory here. So we've got all sorts of things that you can remember, memorize, but I'm going to go to random words easy. So if I click on this thing, right, you'll see that. Right. When I say easy, these were for Australian Memory Championships. So they weren't that easy, to be honest. But you know what? It is what it is. So what I generally do is I look at these words, and if I don't like a list, I'll just hit reload and it refreshes. Right. So sometimes I cheat and think, okay, these are it's an easier word. So anyway, I am going to probably reload a couple more times. And we shall, there we go, do one of these lists. So I always pick the middle list for some reason. I don't know why. I think that's where my eyes go. But here's what we're going to do with your memory palace. So first location, you've got that. Mine is my front fence. What I'm going to do is make a story with fishermen and my front fence, right? So I'm going to picture a fisherman sitting on my fence fishing. Pretty basic, story. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect that fisherman to the next word, right? So we're going to put two words into one location, right? So the fisherman is fishing for something and then takes out one of the whiskers from my cat, right? So whiskers just one, so it takes out a whisker from my cat, but I can hear the cat screaming and yelling, when the fisherman from my fence picks it up. So think about how you can make that story to your location, right? So if you've got, like I said, you've got a door, if you've got a driveway, if you've got a bell, whatever it is, right? Think of how you can connect fisherman, right, to that, and then connect whisker. Now, my stories are very, very quick because I've been doing this for over 20 years. So for people that are watching and for you guys, obviously it's going to take a little bit longer. So try and, just take your time, make the associations, think of, well, what does a fisherman even look like? Are they wearing a hat? Is their rod really long? What does a whisker look like? Is it that small or is it massive? But remember, you can use your imagination. So you've got free license to use your imagination. Go for it. So fisherman whisker, you've got that story. We're moving along, right? Merchant, right? So my second location I mentioned is my car. So I'm going to say a merchant is trying to sell me my own car, right? I think that's funny. So because I laugh, there's an emotion that makes things memorable, right? And because I'm laughing, right? I've got a towel. Now, I don't know what toweling means, to be honest. So what I visualize is, I don't know if you guys ever did this. When we used to go swimming carnivals in a men's room, we used to, do the towel like this and flick each other, right? So people watching going, Tansel, you're such a weirdo. But this is just my own sort of experience, right? And I think, okay, what's toweling? I'm going to get a towel. I'm going to wind it around. I'm going to flick this merchant. Why is he trying to sell my car? So that's my second location. You can see what we're doing. We're just making stories with the locations. That's all it is. And you can have not just 10 locations, you can have hundreds. Like I've got thousands for the memory competition because we memorize thousands of numbers and words and so on. So maybe not thousands of words, but thousands of digits of numbers, and we need lots of locations for them. So yeah, we memorize quickly. So merchant and toweling, we got that one in my second location. Think of what you can do for your locations, right? Um, Next one, right? And some of the words do get harder as well and more abstract. So we'll look at how to memorize them as well. So my third location is my door, right? So I've got numeral. Now, I don't have a number on my door. So I can just picture a number, a numeral on my door, right? And it's going to be the numeral of obviously the place I live. So I see those numbers, and it's shining gold, right? It's really out there in your face, because if you just remember something very basic, you might miss the number, right? You don't have to remember the number, just remember that it's a numeral, right? So I've got that number, right? And it's a single number for me. It's really golden, it's shiny, people can see it from a mile away. So that's numeral. And then I have to connect that to the word quota. And I'm doing this live with you, by the way, as well. And quota means like there's a set number of something. And maybe there's a set number of these gold, numerals that are around. And I've got a limited edition, limited quota of these numerals. So I think I've saved myself there with that story. Who knows? See what you can do with numeral and quota. It is a bit tricky. Next location, we've got lockup. So once I go through my door, I go into my bedroom, then I've got a window, right? And my window is locked up. Now, you can use the word locked up instead of lockup, because locked up is a trigger to the word lockup, right? You're not going to, yes, you might remember locked up, but if you really take notice of the word lockup, it's going to trigger into that word. And I'll give you an example. My name, Tansel, right? To remember my name, people say Tinsel, right? But they remember it as Tansel because that was the name. They're not going to always call me Tinsel, 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 unless they're teasing me, right? So yeah, you can say locked up and then you'll remember lockup. So I've locked up my window so no one can get in. However, something did get through, and it's this is pronounced dachshund. I think I used to read it as Dachshund. I thought it was German, but it's a dog. And I think it's one of those sausage dogs, the sort of really long sausage dogs. And that's what got through. I don't know how, but the sausage dog got through my locked window, right? And because I'm using my imagination, these things can happen, right? So I've made that story up. Next one, right? Again, make your own one up. Take your time. But I did try and take my time so you can have time doing it as well. So let's go. Next one. I have got my bed, right? And my bed is tied into a knot. Well, I could say the bed sheets, right? You can tie a whole bed into a knot, but I want to make it so that you can actually visualize it a little bit better as well. So, my bed sheets are in a knot, right? And it's a pain to undo them because I've got no nails whatsoever, right? So the only way to undo these bed sheets is to use gelatin, right? Or gelatine, however you want to say it. I say gelatin, right? And I put it through in between the bed sheets where the knot is, and guess what? Boom, it undoes the knot, right? Gelatin. Don't try it at home because it's probably not true. But if you do and it works, let me know because I'd love to hear about gelatine solving the knots. It could be the internet's greatest hack. Who knows, right? So that's my bed. That's what's happening on there. Next one I've got is my shower, right? So shower, there's a big banner in the shower. Maybe I've come from a trip and I needed a nice little shower, and it says welcome home, the banner. I'm not trying to remember welcome home. I'm trying to remember the banner. So I remember, the colors. Maybe again, it's type of what's that thing? Tinsely, right? There's all sorts of almost like those birthday banners, right? That's what I'm thinking of. So if you think of colorful pink and blue and all that sort of stuff, there's a banner in the shower anyway, right? Now, Nexus, again, I probably don't know what this word is. I can look at so this is a good thing about the internet, right? I can just look at that and get the meaning. So a connection of series or connections linking two or more things, which is what we're essentially doing with memorization, right? But here's what I'm going to do. right? If you don't know the word nexus, what you can do is use the word that's sort of rhyming. So for me is Lexus, right? Now, I love a Lexus vehicle, a car, and I'm going to imagine as I'm staring at this beautiful banner saying, welcome back, and I'm in the shower, a Lexus drives in and crashes the banner, right? I'm not happy. I'm not happy because there goes the beautiful banner, but there's this, big bright Lexus that's gone through it. I'm okay. So, thanks for worrying about me. But there you go, banner and Lexus in the shower, right? So hopefully your association was better. Next one, I've got a sink, right? And a sink, I've got hormone. Wow, it's getting really interesting. Now, hormone is, again, it's kind of abstract. If you know what a hormone looks like, you can sort of see it. I don't know what a hormone looks like. So I try and come up with associations to hormone. So I can think of a hormonal teenager, right? That's what's coming to my mind. So I've got a hormonal teenager washing their face in the sink. Okay, wasn't that bad, that story, right? But again, I'm going to be triggered to the word hormone, right? So hormonal teenager, or I could say hormone teenager, because in our brain, grammar doesn't matter. It's just images, right? So you could say hormone teenager washing face in the sink. What's he washing his face with? A jam, right? Now I'm going to picture a jam that I eat and not like a door jam because I don't even know what that looks like. So yeah, washing his face with the jam. There you go. There's my story with hormone and jam. I wonder if yours is going to be probably a lot better than mine because you could pause this at any stage. If you're doing it live, it's a bit tricky, but you can pause it and go, oh yeah, hormone jam. There you go. That's what I'm going to do. Next one is my toilet, right? So I'm going to say curb. Now, curb is like the side of the curb road or something like that. So I'm going to picture a curb right on top of my toilet because I can visualize what a curb looks like, right? Curb fell into the toilet, right? And I had to pick it up, but there's all germs in there. There's a germ. There's one big germ, right? Instead of saying germs, I can say there's one big germ and I had to fight against it to take the curb out, right? It was a clean toilet, by the way. There's nothing in there. But if you want to make the association, the story more memorable, have stuff in the toilet. Yeah, now it becomes memorable. And you're probably going, that's disgusting, Tansel. Well, you want to remember stuff, you got to go there, man. You got to do it. So that's my toilet. My next location, I'll add two more for yourselves. What have I got? I've got a cupboard, right? And warrior. Now, the warrior that comes into my mind, it came up yesterday at one of the networks meeting I was in. Xena, Princess Warrior, right? So I'm going to picture Xena, the Princess Warrior, wearing my clothes in my cupboard, right? And it probably doesn't fit her because she's pretty massive. She's big lady, Xena, Princess Warrior. She's a warrior, right? And then what I did was I put on some identification for her so people know that it's Xena, Princess Warrior, because it's not the 90s anymore, right? Most people won't know who she is. In fact, if you don't know, go and check her out. Her shows are awesome. So we've got Xena, Princess Warrior in my cupboard, trying to wear my clothes, and I put an identification tag or whatever it is, an ID, identification, just so that people know who she is, right? So this is your ninth location. So think of, again, what you can do for warrior. It could be, one of those ancient warriors, or it could be, what's his name? Poatan from the UFC, right? The warrior there. He's a pretty awesome fighter. He's a bit of a warrior. So we've got Alex Pereira, identification. So you can do whatever you want, right? And then the final location, I'll just say my door because I'm exiting out of my bedroom now, is a journal, right? And what I'm going to say is I've got a journal. Instead of, how you've got clothes hangers on some doors, I've got a journal hanging on the back of my door. So every time I'm about to exit my door, I write down, what am I grateful for today, right? So I've got a gratitude journal behind my door and, right, carbon. Wow. And every time I write something, right, I'm not exhaling, that's oxygen, right? Now I'm breathing in oxygen, I'm exhaling carbon. Is that how it works? comment down below anyway. So carbon. So I'm writing down gratitude journal. I'm breathing out because I'm so grateful for the world, breathing out carbon, right? And again, tricky words. You have to try and visualize and associate other things for it if you can't see it. So I just visualized and associated air coming out of my mouth for carbon, right? So there you go. We're breathing oxygen. Yeah, breathe out carbon. That's what I believe anyway. So if I got that wrong, please let me know. So there we go. All 20 words. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop my share, right? I just stopped my share. So let's see if you can remember those. And I'll give you a bit of time just to write down all those words in order, right? So not random. So in order, we want to make sure they're in order. And we want to make sure that, yeah, by using the memory palace, you're understanding how the connection process works. So give you some time, write down. I'll just talk in the background. Hopefully, as you're going through your locations, the stories are there right in front of you. If they're not, that means that, yeah, you haven't really connected the stories together or the words together. So that's what you really need to look at is how do I make a really good connection with these words? And that's what we're going to look at when we talk more about the practical stuff. I'll give you a little bit more time and then we'll get cracking into the practical things as well. Okay, so by now, hopefully you've gone through all those words and remembered as many as you can, right? The memory palace. Now, what can you do with the memory palace? Look, there's a ton of things you can do, but it's about understanding that you can do them. And one is to remember presentations, like if you've got speeches, and scripts as well, if you're acting, all that sort of stuff. So what you can do, let's do presentations, right? If you've got a talk, right? The goal isn't to memorize word for word, verbatim, right? The goal is to understand what you're talking about. That way you can say that message out to in different ways to different audiences rather than just remembering it once in one format, right? And sometimes you want to say it differently as well. As long as you understand something, you can say it and twist it and mold the shape of the message to fit the audience because that's what you're trying to do, right? You're trying to create impact with your words, not remember a whole bunch of words. So the best thing to do for speeches is to create dot points, right, of your talk. Now, if you've got dot points, guess what you can do with dot points? You can put the points onto your memory palace, right? And if you've got, 10, 20, 30 locations, you can put all these topics and all these dot points, key points into those locations. So for example, if I'm talking about memory, for example, right? First thing that I want to do is introduce myself. I've got introduction. So I'm introducing myself to my front fence. I'm looking at it going, hi, I'm Tansel. Hi, I'm Tansel. I could be repeating it over and over. And the next thing I want to talk about is maybe the aims of the session, right? So I'm aiming an arrow at my car, right, which is my second location. So to see how that works, you can get your talk and literally just pop it on your locations and you've got it. And if you miss something, right, miss a location, you don't remember it, guess what you can do? You can go to the next one. You haven't forgotten your talk, right? Whereas if you use something like a linking method, right, or just off the top of your head, if you forget it, you forget it, right? It's very hard to get back on track. And if someone asks you a question, you say, look, no, this is where we are because I know I made the story in my head, right? So they're the associations. So you can use presentations, right? Scripts are very similar as well. You know, whatever's happening, you can make that association onto those locations. Same sort of thing. We're also looking at managing information as well. So you've got a whole bunch of tasks and to-dos, you can chuck them in there. Also, what goes really well with the memory palace as well is things like mind mapping, right? And a mind mapping is really powerful because what you can do is if you've got a lot of information, that organizes the information. So for example, if you want to learn any topic, let's say it's knitting, right? If you've always wanted to learn knitting, this is how you're going to do it, right? But obviously the best way to learn is doing it, but this is how you can plan it, is you can get yourself a book on knitting, whatever it is, and then mind map all the contents. So chapter headings, subheadings, sub-subheadings. So you map it all out. And as you're reading, you're adding details onto that mind map. And then what you do is you can either memorize key points around it, or because you've got it on a mind map, now you know what to do, then start knitting away according to your mind map. The benefit of that is instead of taking notes from page after page after page, right? Because something on page 12 might link to something on page 29, something on page 29 might link to something on page 300. But on a mind map, everything's in its order. So you have direct access to where you want to get your information. And because you've got your information, now you know what to do. So you can use a memory palace along with mind mapping to manage any sort of information that you want to learn, even things like information overload. If you've got overload information, map it out, and then you can look at what you want to memorize and what you don't want to memorize as well, because it's more about understanding. So that's another one. Now, people watching are probably thinking names. I want to remember names, right? I'm hopeless at names. Well, you don't need a memory palace for that, thankfully, right? What you can do is what we've been doing all along is making associations and stories, right? So if I want to remember, say, a name like Sandra, right, I can picture sand in that lady's hair, or as DMV says, Sander, right? That one's special, out to you, buddy. So this person is sanding or something like that, right? If I want to remember the name John, right? Picture someone sitting on a toilet, right? In some cultures, John means toilet. That's why I said it, right? And it's all about association. I used to work with this guy named Vijay Ranganamachandran, right? Beautiful name, but it was very long. And I really wanted to remember all of it. So, what I did was I thought, Vijay was DJing, right? DJ, Vijay orangutan jumped on him, right? An orangutan jumped on him. Then Rama caused all this drama at the nightclub he was DJing, right? Rama and Chandran. Chandering is a term in Australian for vomiting, right? So vomiting. So VJ was DJing, orangutan jumped on him, caused all this drama at the nightclub. Everyone was chundering. So there you go, VJ Ranganama Chandan. I apologize, VJ, if I'm messing up your name. But it's just for memorization. It's all in good education. So, hopefully you forgive me. That's name. So now the big thing from all of that is, where do you take this, right? You want to be able to remember in the best possible way, right? Is it just, number rhyme, memory palace? Well, look at everything that you've learned, right? You've learned that the holding spots of memory. You've also learned that it's about storytelling and visualization. So if you want to improve certain skills, like visualization, for example, listening skills, for example, you'd use visualization. And that was one skill that I was terrible with, was someone would talk to me and I'd forget. So listening was terrible. But I learned to visualize now. So if you're watching this, try and visualize it and see if you can actually get the messages, right? You can do a lot of practical things with memory. So now that you've got a taste of it, go out and practice these skills, because what's going to happen is the more you practice, the more questions you're going to have. Like, how do I do this? How do I do that? I've got a bar exam. How do I pass the bar exam? Well, I can mind map all the information. I can visualize the content, and anything that needs to be memorized, I can put into memory. Okay, good. Right? I've helped people pass the world's hardest exams using these strategies, including the bar exam as well. So sommelier exams, law exams, medical exams, and so on. So the system is the same. You don't have to know that stuff. If you want to learn languages, right? If you want to keep that language in your head, you can put them in locations. But what do you put? Do you put words? No, words are out of context. You'd want to put phrases in because phrases are in context. How do I get to the train station? What's your name? How old are you? What are you drinking? What's wrong with you? All that sort of stuff. They're all in context in most of the time. So if you memorize those phrases, if you can memorize 1,500 phrases of any language, you can pretty much speak it, right? And because you're doing connection now, visualization and association, you can get those 1,500 a lot quicker rather than repeating them over and over and over again. So if you were to put them into locations, then you don't have to, you don't have to have books and stuff. You just go to your locations and retrieve what you want. So it's really, really powerful. So hopefully you've learned from that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the floor for questions in the chat box. So fire away. I've opened the chat and I'll answer some of your questions as well. Hopefully it has helped you. Jay Frank, it says, he said he's found it helpful. That's good. I'm glad you found it helpful. And look, I'm also available on LinkedIn as well. I'm often on there. I'm also on Instagram a fair few times, but I'm generally posting food photos, not really memory. I do have a memory account, but most of my action happens on my food account, to be honest. So yeah, jump on that link. My website is there as well. Go on to downloads. If you have any questions, fire away. I've got like 2 minutes as well. Otherwise, you can email me from my website, tanselali.com. You can jump on. I've got free lessons there as well. But yeah, do get a chance as well to jump on this 6-week program because yeah, it's limited and it's ridiculously cheap. So yeah, jump on that. And how that works, it's not just 6 weeks of meetings. It's 6 weeks, like weekly sessions plus daily communication. So I'll be on your, we'll be working together every single day, except for the weekends, because, we've got to live lives, right? So every single day we can connect and work on our memory for 6 weeks. So that's pretty insane deal. Yeah, jump on it if you get the chance. I'd love to work with you if you really want to go ahead and do that. Yeah, so for now, I'll thank you very much. I'm just going to read these comments and see how we go. So Jaylan saying it was really helpful. Thank you. Oh, you remember the words. Cool. So how many hours would one need to commit? Right? That's a very good question. Hours a week. So what I generally say to people is if you do 5 to 10 minutes a day, right, that's a good start because what you want to do is you want to get into the habit of using these techniques, right? That's the best thing to do. And I usually have training exercises people can do. And if you get into my weekly intensive, you'll know how to do these exercises perfectly. So 5 to 10 minutes a day is all you need. And you keep doing that. It's just think of it like physical exercise, right? But it's easier on your brain. You're not actually tired, right? Physically. And it's easier to do something for 5, 10 minutes. So yeah, that's all it takes, Jaylan. Yeah, good one. Next question, Abu Ahmed. Thank you. You're welcome. How long does it take for these techniques to become second nature or automatic? That's a really good question because it doesn't become automatic or second nature. You have to be able to turn it on, right? That's the thing. People look at me and they go, oh yeah, you can memorize everything. It's perfect, whatever. No, it's a conscious effort. If I don't memorize something, if I don't make the connection, I will forget as well, even as the memory expert. So yeah, Abu Ahmed, that's what generally happens. Read the second part of it. Does one always need to actively employ these methods? Okay, yep, that's true. Yeah, you have to actively use them. However, it does get easier every time you use it. It's not like a massive chore when you're meeting people or when you're listening. Because you've been doing it so often, you've been training, it becomes a lot easier as well. And then you become empowered because you know these skills and you want to use them. It's not like, oh, I have to use memory techniques again, right? So look at it that way. Burak, thank you so much as well for joining us. It's really lovely having you as well. Okay, Jaylan, 3 little kids. How cool. Okay, for the program, well, maybe that's something we need to talk about as well with the kids because the 6-week intensive, it's more for adults as well. For kids, has to be more of a discussion because different needs, all that sort of stuff. But generally, memory, practical applications, right? Here's the thing. I just want to finish off here because this is probably the most important thing. If you can take one thing out of today, aside from the techniques, I want you to take this, right? How I got really, really good with memory and applying my memory, right? To say learning languages. I went back and did 2 master's degrees. I learned really well. All these skills that are beneficial for memory. I didn't go directly to the skill. All I did was train my memory, right? Memory training. And here's the thing, whenever you go to learn something, right, it's always stressful, right? There's always a degree of stress in learning. And if there's stress, guess what happens? Cortisol goes up, right? Cortisol levels, that's a stress chemical, right? Goes up in your brain, dopamine goes down. So the reason why people don't continue with certain skills because of learning, it's stressful and you get to a certain point, right? So what you can do, and this is how you can really boost your memory, is don't learn memory, right? Do memory, right? And that's memory training, right? So if you go in and play around with memory techniques, like I said, remember, all just random words, jump onto a website like Memory League as well. That's a really cool gamified website. Now, if memory training is gamified, what happens is that you keep wanting that dopamine hit, right? And dopamine is a reward center in your brain. So you can play these games. And again, in my programs, that's what I do. I show people how to play these games. And because you're playing a game, you're getting better and better and better. Guess what that's doing? That's improving your memory. So when you do go to learn that thing, guess what? It's easier to do. You haven't had to go through the hard yards this way. All you did was play games and then apply your memory. And that's what happened to me. So people don't know that all I did was just play games and then I got good, not the other way around. So I didn't learn languages by just learning languages. All I did was play. And by the way, like there's so many ways to improve your memory as well. It's not just, these sessions. You can read all my, like I've got over 200 YouTube videos and this is going to be on there as well. Like what I'm trying to do, as some of you know, is just get this out there. It's more about awareness and that you can do it. Because how I started was I was a skeptic, so I never really believed it. Yeah, thanks, Jaylan. I'm glad you read my books. All right, well, let's leave it there because I think people want to use this room that I'm in. Really appreciate your time. If you've got any further questions, feel free to reach out anytime and I'll leave you to it. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.